All right, guys, welcome to Next Level Live. Thank you very much for joining us. Got two very special guests today. I have my buddy Paul McLean. There we go. A little cheers for Paul. Yep, cheers for Paul. Okay.
Good to be on, my man.
And this is like at the end of 8 Mile. This is how they set him up. They said, that one's real close. That one's real close. So they did, who is that? Lotto and B Rabbit. So now I got to do Dom. See if we can Dom get louder applause. Now it's my
Thank you.
He didn't even let me introduce him. He was going to be like my boy Dominique Rogers. And that's how he got him. He said that was selling right there. That was his buddy, right? Future was trying to get him. He was like, yeah, how y'all feeling about Lotto? Boom. He's like, how about B Rabbit? Right? Dom is sales 101, bro. Everybody went nuts, All right. Well, welcome to today's show. And we're really excited because, for me, this is always about, I always just say, the key to being successful in anything is becoming proficient at it, teaching others to be proficient at it through your activity usually and demonstrating it for them, and then allowing them to teach others to do it. So let's get outside of life insurance and go. When I was a social worker, what my goal was to be good at what I was doing, be proficient, going to meet with people, having discussions with them, talking to their families, whether they wanted me or not, dealing with everybody I had to deal with, all the different issues that parents and the kids and the families had. Then I wanted to be able to show other people how to do it, right? And then I wanted them to be able to do the same. So if we had all these people that could train each other, we'd be a much better organization. And I think that's the same thing here at, in the life insurance sales, right? What we're trying to do here today, and we're going to talk about both. We're going to certainly talk about protecting families, but we're also going to talk about recruiting and building an agency. And I want to be very forthright, when people say and I tell people I'm not good at a lot, and I've been very blessed to be pretty good at this, whether working here or not. But the only reason, Paul, is because I did work hard and that I 100% wanted families to be okay. Same reason I was decent at being a social worker and they thought I was pretty good is because I really wanted the families to be okay. I genuinely deep down inside wanted, and I wasn't worried about me over them. So I was willing to do anything I had to do, challenge them, have discussions with them, because I was very presumptive. When I took my job as a social worker, I was 21, right out of college, just turned 21. And the families I met with were obviously they had kids, they were established, and I'll never forget going to, and this is when I started, I worked there for a long time, but going to my fifth in-home visit, and I'm asking the child about their situation, and one of the things you'd say to younger kids, you'd say, if you had 3 wishes, what would they be? So if I said to Penelope, give me 3 wishes, she'd give me 3 wishes. I want to do this, I want to do that, whatever it is. Well, and this child gives me 2 things that are pretty normal. I'd like to do this and do that. And I was like, all right. And the third one was the child said, I'd like to have this person stop doing these things to me. And I was like, wow. And I never encountered that before. Because when I was in class, to give you an idea of how you get good at this, when I was in class and they were teaching me about social work methodology, it's fine to read in a book. And it's fine to go, yeah, what I would say is this. But when the child looks you in the eye at 10, 11 and says, this is what I want to have stop happening to me, and they barely know you, then the first thing is you can't react. If you react, they'll shut down. So if I acted like, oh my good God, please, then the child would have been like, I'm not going to share anything else. So listen to all these horrible things that's happening to this child. So I've never been in a situation before because I've been working there I was in training in class for the good thing about that, they would do training, but then you would go out in the field during training. But I learned everything I learned out in the field. Kind of like here, the stuff you're going to take, you're going to learn skill sets that you can hold on to, but you're only going to perfect those, learn, and grow by going out there. And I remember I said to the child, get your stuff, we're going to go. And the child was like, okay, which made me even crazier nervous. Man, you're totally cool leaving, your parents. It was mom and stepdad. You're totally cool with this. And I went downstairs, and they're sitting on the, chairs, drinking a beer. And they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, your child's come with me, and why? And I'm like, seriously? You know what I mean? And I'm 21. So I'm thinking, I'm eyeing this guy up like it's Jason Bourne, how quickly I can drop him if he gets out of his chair. I'm being honest with you, being transparent. Like, I'm being honest. Like, if he gets up, how bad it's going to be real fast, And I don't want to do this in front of the kid, but like something. And I'm really angry because of what the child disclosed. And I call my boss. I get in a car, and they just I take their kid. Like, we got to go. I'm a child protective services worker. Child's unsafe. Child's in imminent danger. We got to go. So I call my boss, and he says, how'd it go? I said, well, I got child in the backseat of the car. We're heading to foster home. And he says, what do you mean? I said, what do you mean? I did all the stuff y'all taught me to do, and here's what the child said, and the child's in imminent danger. And he said, well, Sean, that definitely sounds like the child's in imminent danger, but you need to get somebody's permission to do that. And I said, that doesn't make any sense to me. Why would I have to wait for y'all to figure out if this? I was just there. And he's like, well, you need authority. And I'm like, so you mean I have the authority to ask all the questions? I have authority to assess danger. I have authority to assess risk, and I do not have the authority to actually do my job. And I said, well, I'm not bringing her back. So y'all have a decision to make. And he's like, well, you need to go back, drop this paperwork off. And I was like, all right, let me get her situated first. But I'll never forget thinking, which is why 14 years later I almost didn't want to be there. I never forgot, how hard why are we making things so complicated? And empowering people is empowering them to go out, sit with families. Because, Paul, I'm not making it comparable to working with abused and neglected children. Because with what we do here, with all due respect, while it is work, it's apples and oranges. But then again, when you start thinking about the future of families, and if you come out, Paul, to my aunt and uncle's house, and you don't do your job, and they don't get life insurance, and they die without life insurance, and they have kids, you've neglected their children.
Sure.
Fair enough. You are the one that would be the one that neglected them. Now, if you've done everything you can do, you did it all. If you did everything you're like, dude, I did everything I could do. I wish they had gotten the coverage. They chose not to. But I did everything I could. And I think it's the same thing when you're recruiting agents. I never saw it as, I'm sorry, but I never hired one agent ever, never recruited, I apologize, never recruited one agent ever. Never did I recruit an agent ever. Thinking, man, here's what I'm going to make when he or she sells a policy. Like I'm never, sorry, I never, when I asked Eric Schmidt, I recruited him, I knew him, Eric Anthony, I knew him forever, Matt Walker, and go on, a myriad of all these other people, and Ethan McKinney, and all these people that I knew, I only did it because I thought they'd be in a better position for their families. They'd have more control over their time, and I thought they actually may enjoy this and might do well providing for their family, that the money could be a good byproduct for them. Mm-hmm. That's all I ever thought. So, Paul, walk us through, if I said to you, Paul, I want you to encapsulate, I'm going to ask you to do the same thing, Dominique, please. I want you to encapsulate, Paul, if you are only able to give everybody that works here 7 minutes of sales training, 7. I said, you got 7 minutes of sales training. You need to give us all that. Like, kind of put those things in a box and bury them. You get to pick them up 20 years later. Like, you get 7 minutes. And then also, if you were able to do the same 7 minutes, and 7 is my lucky number, okay, on recruiting and building a business, I want you to share everything you'd want everybody to know. I want you to share if your kids all said, Dad, I want to do this in the future. I can't wait till I get to be 18. And you could say, here's 14 minutes of what you need to know about protecting families and what you need to know about saving agents. If you could provide that for us, and then Dom, after, I'll probably have a question or two and cut it to you and have you do the same thing.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, first of all, thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be on the T-Now. This is something that's served me well for the past decade plus. If it wasn't for the T-Now, I don't know if I would ever got back on track when I got off track or known what to do when I didn't know what to do. I mean, this is some of the stuff that every single week I leaned in, took notes, and still do so today. You know, I always think it's interesting when somebody kind of just gets on things as just a formality to check the box out. The first thing I would tell you when it comes to, increasing your ability to sell and help people is like, what are you doing to kind of renew and refresh your mind every single day? And this is the stuff that does that. For me, Sean, a lot of what you just talked about, man, that would be, I think, my first thing I would say. In fact, this would be like the foundation I would lay to give you the other 6 steps. I think this is the step that leads to all the other 6 steps that maybe I'll go through, or 6 things that help them become that much better. And the first thing is really knowing like what value you have to offer. When I think so many agents are trying to figure out like, what to say and how to say it and all those things. But if you get this right and you really build a passion for serving people, then all the other things you're gonna make time for. You're gonna sacrifice, some time and be able to be on more calls. You're gonna sacrifice late nights of watching, Netflix or whatever, and you're gonna put on a podcast and be diligent and start to lean in and listen to those that have kind of gone the way before you, so you can know where to step and how to step. And that's what I did, man. Like, there was nothing special about who I was. I was 19, dude. I was, pumping septic tanks. The first person I ever picked up the phone, I literally hung up on them. The second person, man, I hadn't said hi for like 7 seconds. I was breathing in the phone. I thought this might be worse than the first phone call, because now they're thinking, like, who's this creep that's breathing in the phone? So I hung up on them too. I was that bad. And I think many people have that initial beginning. Maybe they don't, maybe they do, but I did. But what I did have was an understanding really early on about how important what we did was. And it wasn't something that was inherent because I was 19. I didn't understand mortality. I hadn't had, really, to be honest, anybody close to my family that I could say I lost my dad or mom, or I hadn't had any of that happen, thank God. And so what I realized early on is that if my eyes are on myself, I can never take them off myself long enough to put them on them and truly serve them. And wherever my eyes are going to be, that's where my feet are going to be, are going to follow. And so before I went into the client's house, one of the things I did that I think really set me up to put away all the stuff I was going through, man. I was 19, just started a business, just had my first daughter, and I was separated from my wife. It was a disaster. I didn't know what I was doing. I treated her like crap. We separated, thank God, and found God in a relationship with Him and understand how to treat each other. And now we've got 5 kids. But in that moment, I didn't know it was going to look like it does today. I just saw what it was at that present moment. And so what I had to become good at was compartmentalizing and taking my eyes off myself, which was very difficult given all the emotional, things I had going on, all these big moments kind of colliding at the same time, whether that was marriage, being a parent, being a new business owner, and doing it in 2007 and 8, man, when the market was crashing, selling mortgage protection. So I always think it's funny when somebody says, these leads ain't any good. I'm like, I don't even know what to tell you, because the leads I called were leads that were developed or in 2006. The mortgage on every lead I called was like $3.5 billion because the loan was so high, and it was worth $30,000 now. The average call I made, the number was disconnected because in 07, nobody was putting their cell phone number down. They still had home numbers. So I had to call like 98. There was no phone burner. And so when somebody says, man, these leads ain't any good, I'm like, how about you just shut your mouth while you're talking to me? I'm going to pull a shot. I'm like, what are you talking about?
That's like one of the best quotes in any movie ever. I'm just saying. Shut your mouth when you're talking to me. I'm just saying.
Like, what are we talking about? But what I did understand was that anybody that picked up the phone, they either don't have life insurance. If they don't have it, they desperately need it because it's the most important thing anybody can ever get. Because when they die one day, they're going to be hit with one of the hardest emotional events to ever go through. It's like if you think things are going tough, lose a spouse. Everything about your daily routine and the way you do things, every part of your day is a reminder of the fact that they're no longer there. The second hardest thing, I think most people agree, is going through a financial hardship, like not knowing how to provide for your kids and family, and feeling like just not enough and broken and useless and worthless because how do I not provide for my family? We solve that issue when those both go head to head at the same exact time. So for me, I had to intentionally, before I got out of my car and before I picked up the phone, Sean, I had to sit there and remind myself of that situation, of the client dying. I would imagine when I got out of my car, I did this every single time. I look at the lead, and it wasn't a lead, it was a family. And I would imagine, what if I knew that Bob wasn't coming home tomorrow? What if I knew that, but he didn't know that? Because I don't know that he's not coming home, or if he is, I don't know that. Only God knows that. So if we both don't know that, let me just go under the assumption that he's not going to come home. Because then how would I behave? Would I be concerned about the fact that I'm trying to figure out how to be a dad because my daughter's 2 months old? Would I be concerned about the fact that me and my wife have issues and we're separated? And would I be concerned about the fact that I don't have about 2.5 nickels in my bank account? No, I wouldn't. I'd be concerned about that client. Even if I'm somewhat of a decent human being, I would be concerned about putting my attention for that client for the next 30 to 45 minutes because I know he's not coming home. See, I think that's the first thing. Now, if I tie that to also recruiting, it's the same thing. Like, it's easy to go through the motions in just the formality of like, I need to recruit. I need to build my business. I need to recruit. But I think for me, I've always been better at recruiting when I can remind myself that I'm not recruiting just to like recruit, just to build my business, just because of profitability, just because whatever. But I'm doing that because there's somebody out there like I was, like you were, like when I was 19, when I was praying to God on my hands and knees, like, Lord, could you please give me something where I just have a simple shot to take and have the opportunity to do something better for my family? Because I had no options. And I don't, maybe you do, maybe you don't. I had no college background. I had no degree. I was pumping septic tanks, and I had 4 years ahead of me going to college to finally get a degree that I thought was going to be the path to get me to where I wanted to go. But I didn't have 4 years because I had a 4-day-old. And so for me, this opportunity found me at the perfect time. You know, it was a blessing. And so when you look at it like that, like, man, you're saving agents. You're going out there and you're putting an agent in a better position to go out there and provide for their family. When we go to conference, the thing that I think, I guess, is the most emotional for me is when I sit there and I watch all these people go across stage that have helped 400 families, that have helped 100, 200 families, and knowing that they all have a story, every one of them. It's not the same. Some are maybe more alike than others, but they have a story. They have experiences. They had a certain viewpoint of what they could accomplish, and they started with FFL, and they whatever path that was. Some it was a lot longer. Some they had to go through a lot of excavating. Like that's how it was for me. I had to build character. I had to develop, and when I developed my character and I put audacious work ethic in, eventually that promoted myself to a level of income that was taking care of my family. But they all have a different story. And when I see that, it's like if I can remind myself, okay, let me put it this way. Before I call or send a DM or reach out to somebody, if I can remind myself of the fact that they might be the person that's desperate looking for something, and now they're the person that's walking across stage. And all you got to do, like, you're not the magic. So for recruiting, Sean, what I realized was this, man, like, my job is to go produce, provide a great example. That's what you did. Provide a phenomenal example. Example with my attitude and activity. Not get too high, get too low. I don't have a bad day because you're looking. Like, I don't have a bad day when my kids are looking. I mean, how embarrassing would that be? How are they going to respond then? So I don't have a bad day. There's no bad days. And I'm going to go out there and produce at a high level to show example. The other thing is I'm just a great promoter. I just talk about the conference calls. I talk about other people. Man, when somebody calls me and say, man, your phone script's good, I say, well, you haven't heard Dom's yet. You got to hear it because I do think it's better. So I'm sharing everybody else's stuff and I'm promoting. So if I could produce and promote, I'll build a business. My job is just to invite somebody to the Family First Life opportunity. That's how I recruit. It's just to invite them into it. And then my goal as they start to move and take action is understand who they are and what they're looking to accomplish. And just ask good questions and empower them and when they need to be empowered, to inspire them when they need to be inspired, and to challenge them when they need to be challenged. It's that simple. It's not that much more to it. So I think from a standpoint of selling and recruiting, for me, Sean, when I understood selling pretty quickly because it's where my focus was. I got on the calls, podcasts, nonstop. I'd record myself. I would listen to myself back, and then I would watch somebody that was killing. I'd watch podcasts that you were doing because you're writing helping 40 families a month. I wasn't. And so I would gauge a deviation between how you were doing and how I was doing it because it was in front of me, and then I'd go take massive action. The same thing with recruiting. I just got around people that were really good at it, man, because I wasn't good at it. So I got around good people, asked questions, podcasts, and I just put the activity in. If somebody said, I think it's funny when Nina gets on and she's like, I follow 100 people a day. I post 25 stories. I then like 3 of their posts, do a clappy emoji, and then I shoot them a DM. It says, you must be. She breaks it down, dude. I've heard it. But then I'll talk to different people. Now, and by the way, I do that now. That's what I do it. And I'll talk to somebody that's like, I want to build a business. And I'm like, well, how many people did you like? How many? And I'm like, well, I did a week ago I did it. It's like, no, it's every day. Every day. See, the one thing to be a great producer and be somebody that could build a business is it's every single day. Like, I was never the person that would go out and help 100 families a month. And the ones that do, I'm like, it's incredible. To me, I was just a guy that every week, man, I just helped 10 families every week. And all that was I didn't really care what the scoreboard looked like. I didn't care what my bank account looked like. And my self-esteem and feeling good about what I did, it came from my work habits. And so on Monday, if you want to go out there and sell more, on Monday, if that's your dial day, man, don't think about nothing else. Feel good about booking your 15 appointments if that's the goal. And don't leave until you hit it. It's a non-negotiable. And the reality is this. If you leave at 6 o'clock and you have 12, or you leave at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock and you have 15, You say, well, I lost 3 hours with the family, whatever. Dude, you're going to be so much more invigorated and feeling good about yourself to give value, because you'll feel more valuable for actually doing what you said you were going to do, that you're going to spend the last hour will be a lot more value packed than the 4 hours you would have had, because you know you didn't do what you said you were going to do. And how do I best give something to my kids if I don't feel like I'm doing what I said I'm going to do? I can't. And so that's how you do this thing. And the same thing with recruiting. Like, it's every day. If I know that the best way to save agents is to do this, like to follow 100 people, 25 stories, which is simple. I mean, the content is all over the place. You just copy and paste. But if I know that's it, the question is, why am I not doing that each day? Because it's just a small tweak. So anybody on here, where you're at to where you want to be, it's easy to think that the gap is so large, but it's not. It's a tweak and adjustment away from you getting to where you want to go. And so, in wrapping up, man, I just say that, you want to put the clients first. You want to put the agents first. Think about them, focus on them, and then all the right words to say and how to say it, the structure, how to get them going, that's all going to be figured out. Why? Because your passion's so high that you're going to pay the price. You're going to be interested in getting better, and so you'll put the time into developing and getting better. The first thing is going back and foundationally speaking, putting your eyes in the right spot and building it from there. So that's what I would probably say, man.
That was great. First of all, thank you so much for that. And I think it's funny because when you hear people, I think you always have to ask yourself, what do the clients want? What are they looking for, right? And when people try to overtrain themselves on every single scenario that's ever going to happen, and then you go, what is important to the client? They want you to be honest. Mm-hmm. They want you to be transparent. They want to relate to you. And they want to know you're going to stand up for them. Nowhere in there does they say that you need to be the expert on every medication ever provided and or every product ever written. You're going to get your information. Fine. We're going to get it right. That's easy. But they're looking to see if you genuinely care. And are you being straight up? So this stuff we're talking about, is that important? You go like, well, you just figure out what to say when you put other people first. You just will.
Yep. 100%.
I don't know. How'd you learn how to be a parent? You put your kids first and you brought them home.
That's good.
And then you parented them. And every time you made a decision, you thought, what's best for them? That's all you did. And you're like, we don't, you're not there yet, Dom. They know that. But we don't at times want to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and drive 4 hours to a game. They sleep. They get out of their bed. They got the clothes on, their slides. They get in the SUV, and they go back to bed. And I pick up 3 of their buddies on the way there, and we go. Yep. And I slept for an hour and a half. Why? Because it's your kids. That's how it is when you're little. And they become adults, and then they're going to do their own thing. So, great job, Paul. Dom, same thing from you. Yeah. On both ends of it, please. Just go ahead and share what you'd want everybody to know.
Man, I wish I would have went second. All right, that was awesome, Paul.
Well, you are going second.
I mean, first. I'm sorry. I'm first.
Are you trying to get inside my head? I'm like counting myself. Am I like, first and Paul's second? Third. Yeah, you wish you went first.
I went first.
I know.
Great job,
That's
dude.
okay.
One thing I'd say, man, when you're talking about sales and building, and what do you need to know about them, and I think it's who should you be? Who are you in those scenarios, okay, in those jobs. And what I'd say is, coming in, you have to be crazy coachable, and you got to be a team person. And you'd be like, well, I've never played sports. I've never been on a team. I think we all have teams that we've been on growing up, whether it be your group of friends growing up. Like, this type of team, like, yeah, like, did you have their back? Like, did you, like, what did you do things for others for the greater good of the group? And I think when you come into this business, you've got to know that you're not alone. You're independent. I think the biggest thing that we make a mistake on is when we start is that we think that we should know stuff or that we need to figure it out on our own. And I think a lot of our figuring it out, because I did it. I thought I needed to figure it out on my own. And I realized, and I called Sean. He's like, dude, why don't you call me in the home? I was like, oh, It's like, dude, you calling me after is not going to do anything. Why don't you call me while you're there? And I was like, oh, I didn't know I can do this. I told you could do that. Now, I heard him, but my ego got in the way and said, what is he going to do? They said they couldn't afford it. What could they do? And then when you start reaching out, you start learning different things in the home, in different scenarios, it's uncomfortable, but you learn how to do it the right way. And so with that, you gotta, and I think when you're performing with somebody, I remember Sean told me this one time when I wasn't closing deals. He goes, you're not closing a lot of deals on your own. I was like, yep. He's like, wouldn't it be cool if we weren't closing them together? I was like, wow, like, yeah, that'd probably feel a lot better than me getting in the car feeling like he's like, yeah. Then I started calling a lot more. Then, yeah, we close them all? No. But I learned, and I learned a lot from those no closes. So I think you want to be very open to being coached. You want to be very transparent with where you are. I remember I had a appointment to where I didn't call in the home. I called after. It was about probably 3 months in, called after the appointment. And I remember Sean goes, hey, he's like, are you still in the home? I go, nope, not in the home. And he goes, all right, I'm going to need you to turn around. And I said, do what? He goes, go back to the house. And guys, I'm very emotional. I'm frustrated. And the reason he instructed for me to go back to the home is because I finally admitted that it was me and that I wasn't good at it. I said, hey, I'm not very good at this. Go back to the house, and this is what you should say. I apologize. I didn't help you. And the reason I didn't help the guy was because it was a mortgage lead. He had diabetes, and he didn't qualify for $250,000 of insurance. And I thought that I just couldn't help him. Went back, shook his hand, say, I apologize for not helping you out. I talked to my manager. I definitely have a mortgage protection plan to help you out. And helped him out, payment protection. And what that showed to me was that I needed to, when I hear this all the time, get out of your own way, right? It's like I needed to get over myself. I needed to get over the client thinking, well, he doesn't know this, or is he calling for help? Or I don't think anybody, my mom did hair growing up, and still does. I don't think when my mom said, hey, let me check this color to make sure that, that this is the right blonde on your texture. I don't think any of her clients said, man, she doesn't know what she's doing. What a terrible cosmetologist she is. And I think as we're coming into this on the sales end, we have to understand that our clients aren't expecting us to know everything. But when we do care and we're going to put them first, which means we're going to call and ask for help and find the resources, you gain a lot. And what I learned over the years, and I learned from Sean and a lot of these top producers like Paul, is that once you get there, it's still good to not have the answer sometimes. There's been times where I've been in a house, I know the answer. The client goes, how's that return of premium thing work? I know the answer, but I've been giving her the answers the whole day. So let me slow down. Hey, you know what? That's a real good question. All right, so that's kind of weird. You pay $80, they give you all your money back. Let me give my manager a call and just, hey, I'm sitting down here with Susan, and we're looking at a cash back policy. She just has some questions on how she gets all the money back. Put them on speaker. Hey, Susan, Dom here. The insurance companies are like banks. They take your money over 30 years. They invest it. They make boatloads of money on your money and everybody else's premiums, and they give you your money at 0 pennies on the dollar. Does that make sense? Oh, yes, that makes sense. If I would have said it, I'm a sales guy in their eyes up until that point. And then I reach out and ask for help. Now I'm not turned from the sales guy to the guy who's actually trying to find a solution and the answers for them. Sure. So I think as you're growing in this business and you start to, you think you know it. And we all went there, Paul, like we think we got it. And then we realized, dude, I've missed like 8-9 sales in a row. What happened? Oh, you stopped reaching out. You stopped validation. You became the I got all the answers. And on the hiring end, you're going to take those same approaches to being coachable and teachable, but know that you're doing this and building this with a group. When you're in the field, yes, you can call in the home, but with the hiring, with recruiting, you can do this together. When I started, it was, hey, I'm doing this. I'm going to hook you up with my manager Sean. He'll give you a call and go over it with you. And what I did was I get on the call 3-way and I would learn what those conversations were like. I was always, when on the hiring end and even sales end, always try to find a way that you can be in the moment with somebody doing the work. So it'd be doing recruiting calls. I'd get on those. Hey, text over. Hey, my buddy Marcus, or hey, call. What time are you going to call him? Get on there. And I just listen in. Then eventually I started doing it myself. And I think a lot of the times with the recruiting, we take so much on ourselves without seeking out advice or merging and partnering with somebody who's doing it already. And be clear, at Family First Life, everybody's going to tell you everything that they're doing. And if you're working hard, they're always going to work hard with you. And which, to Sean's point of hiring for the right reasons, like I wasn't big on, if you're talking about, spread and comp and things. Dude, if I would have understand that, I would have never started, to tell you the truth, because I didn't get it at all. That was not important. We were recruiting because we knew the situations that some of the people that we knew were in. When I was in class, I had about 6-7 other people in class with me. I had no clue what we were doing, but I just knew that what they were doing didn't have the potential with this. And my mom got an insurance license a year after I did, purely because she saw the situation. I saw the situation she was in. She knew the situation she was in. I said, hey, if I can do it, you can do it too. And my sister, I mean, the list goes on of folks who just have gotten licenses over the years purely because we want to help them change their situation. And I think when you have that on the forefront of your mind, there's really nothing wrong you can say to the new recruit. If your heart's in the right, and I think the same thing with your clients. If you're in the home and your heart's in the right place, like what really could you do that's going to turn somebody that off because of your lack of knowledge? And I think when our heart's not there and we lean on knowledge that we don't have is when we get messed up in recruiting and sales. So that's mine.
That's great. Great job. Couple things. I think, when you talk about, because I think a lot of us are that way, right? I love when you said that. It was, my ego, right? And that's not uncommon. Like, and part of it is, hey, I've always done a lot of stuff on my own. So when you ask me to reach out to you for help, that's abnormal for me. I'm just going to figure it out. And I'm all right as long as you're actually figuring out and helping families. But there are times you get to a roadblock and you just need help. I mean, you started off, Paul, talking about, being a good promoter. And I said this about you plenty of times. I'm like, his sales training's better. Listen to him. Like, I'm a big promoter of people as well. Also, why would you not want to be more effective and have to do less work to do that, right? Like, how big an organization can you run if you are the magic?
Right.
I don't know, you and 3 people? I mean, like, if you're telling me you got to do everything for everybody because you're so amazing, how big can that organization get? It can't grow. There was a time, and I want you both to answer this, please. Somebody asked me that day, when did you make a change in the home? And I'll be really honest with you. I've been this presumptive since the first appointment I wrote. I'm just, I can pretend I'm terrible at a lot of things, but I was not uncomfortable getting uncomfortable. I was never uncomfortable dialing the phone because I understood the dynamic. And I was never uncomfortable going to your house. I wasn't good at recruiting, so I was definitely more uncomfortable recruiting, and I was. So you guys might have been like, I didn't like it. I just didn't. I stopped saying I didn't like it because you tend not to be good at things you say you don't like. I went to college and I was always like, I don't like playing the outfield. I don't like playing the outfield. I don't like playing the outfield. The coach was like, you see the guy playing third? I said, yep. He said he's 6'5", 240. And he got drafted in the 9th round and didn't go. He plays third. Do you play the outfield? I said, I'll play anywhere you want. I ain't fast enough to play center, but I'll play any corner. I'm left or right. I'm good. My buddy said, you hate playing outfield. I said, that was yesterday. Today, I love playing outfield. Matter of fact, I'm going to be the best right fielder you ever seen in your life, bro. And you ever put somebody fast in center, so I'm going to get out of the way. We're never going to run into each other, so I'm running fast enough. So I told the center fielder the first day, he was from, Dominican or something. I said, hey, it's good news. We ain't never going to run into each other and collide. He said, that's good because you're bigger than me. I said, I know, but I'm so slow. There's no way in the world there'll be a ball hit in the air that could remain in the air long enough where we could actually potentially hit each other. So you'll never have to worry about running into me. Like, when you and Marcus run into each other, that can't happen to me. You can't run into me. I mean, and if I'm that close to you, it's hung up enough, I know you're catching it. But there's no way full speed we're going to get at each other because I don't run that fast. And but it's you have to. There was no ego. I was like, okay, God, I want to play. Like, whatever you all want me to do, I want to play. Like, I get this. I'm good. I got it. But I think that it's getting people to understand that what changed my life, and I want to hear from both of you what changed your in the home, because everything we did was in the home. My first death claim did it for me. I've told the story a bunch of, but my first death claim, when because he was in his 30s, because I didn't see it coming, because it happened 48 hours after I wrote the policy, because I had not had anybody die. I mean, the policy I wrote for the first 5-6 months. He was my first death claim. And it wasn't as if, with all due respect, it wasn't an 84-year-old that had some medical. This was a young man, very healthy, who died in a motorcycle accident. And it also wasn't like riding his Harley to work in the afternoon. It wasn't like, he's out till 2 o'clock and every time in the morning, wife, kids, and she was already dying of cancer. So that changed my life. Like, I was like, okay, everybody's going to be him. Because I would, if I'd walked out of the appointment and Dominique called me and said, hey, you just wrote somebody, I'd be like, yeah, dude, he's going to get his money back. Like, he's 30-year ROP. He's like 33 years old. Don't take no medication. Healthy as can be. He's going to make it to 63. You don't drink, don't party. Yeah, he rides his Harley, but, I mean, he rides it, like, up and down Route 12 in Plainfield, Connecticut. Like, he just going to work. You wouldn't have convinced me. And that happened. It changed my life. And then every single client I met with moving on was him. And every single beneficiary was his wife and the children. Everybody. So if I got into a point where it's like I ever started thinking myself, well, he's pretty healthy, right? Yeah, he's young. Or they can't afford it. By the way, they said that too. So they couldn't afford it. So there's no way I can pay that, which is not true. You live in America. Our clients have phones. They fill stuff out. They have a residence that they live in, have a car most of the time. They can afford it. It's just you might not do your job well enough where they go, I need to afford it. Paul, what changed for you? What was a moment where you go, man, when this happened, everything changed for me?
Well, man, I think when I actually, to your point, had my first death claim, that definitely did, rattle me and get me to understand how important it was. Until that happened, just for anybody that's on here, it's like I haven't had that happen yet. What I did, Sean, is I would listen to people that had that happen, their story, and I would journal it. So before I went out of my car, that would be one of the things that I would do to kind of prime or condition myself to see it the right way. Because, again, I had not had any mortality happen. I was 19. So I think, if you had not had a story, what you need to do is think about somebody else's story. For me, like one thing, you said you're always presumptive. For me, I was always really coachable. Like I in high school, I got straight A's. Not because I studied a lot, because I sat next to smart girls, and I did all the way through college. So I wasn't like too proud to like not take something that was given out and then work real hard to make it that much better. And so, coachability, like calling somebody in the house, I mean, I was all in. I was like, do you want me to call you and put you on speakerphone? You can sell the whole thing. Like, I'm in. Like, I'm coachable, and I'll book 55 appointments a week and have you do it. So the whole behind the mat, like, this is how I see it when it comes to being the man. Like, I have a lot of people, and I just want to say this, and I'll go into that, like, that say, once I get to helping 20 families a month, then I'll hire, or then I'll recruit, then I'm going to start recruiting. And I'm always like, why would you do that? Like, you're never the magic. Even when you start recruiting people, you shouldn't tell them what you know. You should point them in a direction, because you're not going to be the best. Even if you're really good, there's somebody better on the phones. There's somebody better at objection. There's somebody better at structuring schedule. There's somebody better at mindset and attitude. There's somebody better. Why don't you just use that? Because if you're the magic, then, like I said, you're never going to grow anything. So the best time to recruit is now. If you're just getting started, you're like, well, I want to wait until. Why would you not recruit now? The person that hired you is going to help those people get going. As you get going, you get to get going with them. So you get to go through the same experiences, which brings team unity. Or you just want to be the person that says, I'm the one that's the leader. I'm the leader. I got the badge. Like, look at me. Look, I'm so
positional leadership.
Yeah, what? And that never works anyways. So the best time to grow, like Andrew, I had my license for, I think, 32 minutes longer than he did. You know what I mean? Like, so he was like, you helped him. Like, no, we actually got started at the same time. And I think I've learned more from him than he's ever learned from me. Like, what are we talking about? Like, look at what he's done. But it was, I never needed to take that on. I was like, let's just grow together and build a business. It's all win. Relative to like in the home, man, for me, Sean, I was getting deep on surface things, and I was staying surface on things I needed depth. And what I mean by that is this: if somebody said, "Do I have to give you a voided check?" then I'd spend so much freaking time on it, man. Like explaining why, what that looks like. So I was getting deep on something that I shouldn't give any merit to, and I should blow right past. And you on the phones, I mean, I learned a lot in the home from watching on the phones. When somebody gave you something, you blew past it. You didn't get deep on stuff that was surface. It didn't aid you in helping the client. And so that was a big shift for me. I understood that I was staying surface on like the value-based questions and the why. I would just not even ask like, well, Bob, if you pass away, what does that look like? And what I understood was this: the things that were going to aid me in the sale, the value-based stuff, I needed to get depth there. I needed to ask questions in a singular downward. I couldn't get surface. And so I stopped being surface on things that needed depth. And so I would ask questions like, Bob, if you didn't come home tomorrow, Mary, what does that look like? And I'd already painted the picture, and I realized that these questions, the client has finally for the first time actually seen a picture that they've never really looked at. And that comes from, what life insurance you have in place, what's your income, what your health look like, what do you have that acts like life insurance. They have now seen this picture. When I ask these questions and I let silence do the work, the silence is allowing them to live in the picture. And every moment they live in the picture, the emotions breeding. There's something that is not tangible, almost seems to be tangible in that moment. And you don't know the difference between what you imagine and what you experience. So they're actually experiencing almost a situation that hasn't happened yet. And that's what they need to do to understand the importance to move forward. And so a change for me was understanding the emotion and how clients really do understand how important this is if I get the picture in front of them. Because, Sean, I would buy what the client was selling. They'd say, they kind of come across some people, it's not that important. I just want the numbers. And I'd almost slowly start to buy into that. But what I realized is it was a conviction issue on myself. I wasn't convicted in the value I was providing, because if I was, I wouldn't stay surface on things that depth was necessary. And so it shifted for me was getting deep. And then I'd say, Mary, what would that look like for you? And I'd pause, let her talk about it. A lot of times they'd stare at each other with uncertainty. That was good. Now they're finally experiencing it. And then I would say, Mary, well, what do you mean by what is that? Like, you're not too sure. Would you have to sell the house? And then what would that look like? Would you have somebody that would help you out? Bob, is that something that you'd want to have happen? And as I got depth in that, man, like I would see that the clients really understood how important this was. I just was doing a poor job in spending time on that. And so I shifted my focus from, when I get an objection, like, can you just give me that? Whatever it is, I would spend so much time trying to sell them on why, opposed to like almost acting like it was a complaint and like, like I remember you saying T said he didn't want to take a shower. You remember that?
Yeah.
What was your response again? Because that's the psychology behind it. When
my response is, you're going to take a freaking shower, and I'm a lot bigger than you. I can whoop you. So, or I'm not going to feed you for 5 days. You know what? You shouldn't shower for 5 days, and I won't feed you for 5 days. So, let's just see who wins.
Yeah, which was great.
I ain't asking you, dude. And I think when people have something, they say something that makes absolutely no sense, I don't think you should try to rationalize it.
Right, exactly.
Come right back with something as nonsensical as what they said.
Yeah.
No, you shouldn't ever shower again. I'll never feed you again, and we'll just all be cool for a while. Like, what are we doing here, bud?
Yeah, it's like when a client says, like, I'm not interested. My response before was like trying to, so that what changes, that's a surface saying, I'm not interested. I'm not interested either, Bob. Now, my schedule's pretty slammed. I'm going to do my best to get this into you because I know the information is important to get to you. I could put you between appointments at 5 or 7. I didn't give it merit. I blew past it. But the stuff that was important, like Bob, most clients send a request in, they want to make sure that when they pass away, there's no financial hardship with their family. I'm assuming that's probably the same for you. Is that fair? Well, yes, it is. Got it. Understand 100%. And so just getting more depth with the value, where the value was, and then staying really surface in areas that were not going to lead to the sale made a massive difference for me.
That was a very good answer. Thank you, Paul. You set you up again, Dom. That was very that was like a philosophy lesson. That was very good. So it was deep. I like that. There's a lot of depth. Hey, that was a lot of depth there. But I like that. No, but seriously, not going so deep on things that don't require it.
Right. And
then be in service on things that do. We spend so much time on things that really at the end of the day don't make much of a difference, but we want to dive into them and focus on them so much. Who cares when one statement can just move on? So, How about you, Dom? We'll wrap up with this. You in the home with a client. What changed your business career and your ability to serve families?
In the home and working with clients, you're gonna really find who you are and who that professional is. And I learned that every client isn't being crazy. Everything that they say doesn't require merit, like Paul said. And I say they're not all telling the truth. And I would listen to everything that client said, and I'd believe them. Everything they said. I just moved in here. I don't know my bills. I believe it. Okay, got it. Let me know after you pay your first bills. Or I thought this was connected to the bank or whatever. I thought this was free. I try just all these things. I'd almost believe it and try to figure out what was wrong with the lead, or what was wrong with the area that I was in. And then I started to look around and saw all these men and women doing the same thing with the same types of leads. And that's one of the big reasons I flew up to Connecticut early on was I didn't believe that they were calling the same leads I was. So I was like, I'm gonna go up there and see if they are. And I saw, I was like, you guys are calling the same leads. Oh no, it must be me. So a lot of it is going through it and realizing that you're the problem and you're the solution.
It's good.
I think through anything that you're going through on the sales end, you got to really realize it's not the lead type, it's not the area, it's not the client, it's not this type of it's none of that. It's always you. And when you look within, you can make the changes. And if it's all external, you're going to keep looking and keep looking. You'll never ever find it. And the big thing I'd say with actually committing to that is that you're going to surprise yourself. You're going to start doing things in the home that weren't natural to you, but because you were on the trainings all the time, it's just going to start coming out. And a big thing that really changed the value of when I was in the home was I had a death claim. And I know you've heard this before, and many agents, this is kind of where it happens. But my scenario is a little different. I sat down with Eddie and Harriet. Eddie needed the policy. Harriet already had a policy. Eddie thought his policy was great that he had. His wife knew it was not. I'm in the house, and I'm just kind of literally I sat there, and the wife pushed the husband on everything. She did everything. You need this. You're going to do this. I'm not going to sign that. She went outside, grabbed him, brought him inside, and got him the policy. 3 months later, he's taking his grandkid to work, heart attack. Crashes the car, kid's okay, he dies from the heart attack. I'm ripping and running. I see the email, may not see the email, I'm rolling, okay? I'm out probably 3 months later, run an appointment. I have an internet lead, okay? This lead can go to anybody. I show up to the house. She opens the door and goes, Dominique? I go, yep. She goes, thank you. Reaches her hand out. I go, this is weird. I just got here. Like, what's going on? She goes, you helped my dad out. Ed? Yeah, that's my dad. He got it really helped him out with the insurance and really helped us out. And it prompted us that we need to get life insurance. And in that moment, I was like, this is a lot bigger than me ripping around just slinging policies. This is not, it's not 30, 45 minutes, I'm out. Ever since that appointment, every home that I get in, I know who their kids are. I should have known that his daughter lived around the corner. I should have known that. I shouldn't have, and God put that lead in my life. There could have been, I did not go in and say, I want this lead, or it could have went to anybody. So I'm very grateful that happened at that time in my business, because I felt like it was becoming very transactional for me. And I think the earlier you can start putting a finger on the people and the effect that you're truly having, not just in the moment, but months, years later, it becomes really real, and you're willing to get uncomfortable. And what Harriet showed me was that it's okay to push with passion, because she loved her husband, and she made sure that he was going to get insurance. And if I would have loved what I was doing more, Harriet wouldn't have had to stand up for him. I would have done it. So, next time.
That was good, man. Very good. Appreciate it. Well, guys, that's our time today. I can't tell you, but I hope you listen to because I did, and I learned a lot myself today, to what Paul and Dominique were sharing, because at the end of the day, that's what this whole thing's about, is when you can take the fundamental principles we talked about today and go serve people. I think it'll be very gratifying, and you'll be able to do what you need to do for your family. So, listen, we're trying to set records every week of how many families we help. We want to increase that number every single week. We want to increase the amount of agents we save and put in better positions. So, and you guys did a hell of a job today to help us do both those things. So, guys, have a great day, great week. We'll talk to you next week.